Hello, folks. I'm going to say good morning because it's the morning where I am, but you could be listening to this at midnight for all I know. Welcome back to another edition of LFG, our unfiltered franchise education podcast. I am super excited. We have a franchising giant on this weekend. I mean, it's the weekend where I am again, but you could be listening to this on a freaking Monday night.
You're ready for the
Oh
weekend.
my gosh. Yes. But before we get to Josh Allen, Vice President of Marketing and Sales at Location3, Leanne, how was your week? What's going on? How you been?
It was great. I celebrated a little birthday this week.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, you did. I heard it. The old 60.
Wow.
How does
Wow.
there's nothing wrong with 60. How do you feel?
I feel great. I feel great. Do I look great for 60?
Yeah, you do look great for 60. Oh my good. How was the birthday?
It was really, really good. My kids surprised me, and they surprised me until the very end, which was so much fun. I was told to be ready at 4:15, and now that my son drives, he told me that I didn't need to know any more information other than that. So they picked me up, and then we drove over an hour to a farm, and they had reserved a capybara experience. So we got to play with capybaras, and they had lots of goats, and it was very cute, very sweet of my kids, very thoughtful. So
That
great day.
sounds like a lot of fun.
Hmm.
Um, Very nice. Good celebrating. Yeah, as time goes on, it's like, oh my goodness. Because it's like work stuff is like, it's too much. You got to spend a little time smelling the, well, in your case, what did you smell at that farm?
Oh yeah, it smelled goat business.
Stop and smell the roses, I
Yeah.
think is what we're getting to. But yeah, okay. Enough of that. Yes, today we have Josh Allen. Super excited. But before we get to Josh, let's get to what's going on. This segment is sponsored by Franchise Assembly, a franchise events company bringing resources and education to franchise brands and people. Leanne, take it away. What's going on?
Yeah, so today we're talking about digital trends that will transform your strategy for franchise marketing in 2025. This is relevant not only just in general, but into today's podcast because Josh and Location3 are our title sponsor of Franchise Marketing Live. Very, very cool. So they will be talking about digital trends as well, but this is from Forbes. So this year, franchise marketing is getting a digital boost across several fronts. AI enhanced personalization, voice search optimization, privacy first tactics using zero party data, augmented reality experiences, and hyper targeted media buying. So, to connect with tech savvy consumers, brands should start to lean into data driven precision with privacy building strategies like voice search, zero party data, and immersive AR experiences. AI is not just a buzzword, it's reshaping the very tools franchises use to engage with their audience. All those are really great ideas, and I think that franchising in general is a little bit behind in digital marketing. So, I think it's time for us to start paying attention to some of the other trends that are out there.
There you go, which
Obviously.
segues right into AI driven social media for small business. AI isn't just saving time for small business marketers, it's revolutionizing how they operate. So, schedule posts and curate content automatically, reducing workload by up to 75%. Wow, which means we're not going to need any Leannes anymore. Provide personalized engagement at scale through chatbots, uncover analytics like best posting times, top content trends, and audience behavior. But success requires balance. Automation needs authenticity checks, of course, and quality control is critical. With smart oversight, small operators can achieve major efficiencies while maintaining their brand's voice and connection. What do you think about that, Leanne?
I think good about
That you're
that.
going to be out of a job?
I just
What
gotta,
else we
I
got?
just gotta learn how to game the system. That's all. Yeah, we kind of talked about this in our last podcast, but this goes a little bit deeper into baby boomers and business owners are leading the franchise interest surge. So the June Startup Sentiment Index revealed something pretty powerful is that baby boomers and current business owners are leading the charge when it comes to franchise interest. So here's what the numbers say. 33% of aspiring franchise buyers are baby boomers. 24% were already business owners looking to expand or pivot. Nearly 9 in 10 respondents plan to start a business within the next 12 months, and 49% want to launch in the next 90 days. That's pretty cool. So
That is.
let's adjust our strategies to target those baby boomers and business owners if we're not already. Even more encouraging, 88% believe business conditions will improve or at least hold steady this quarter. What does that mean for FranDev? Franchise prospects aren't just first timers, they're experienced entrepreneurs and legacy minded professionals looking for proven systems. And if you're not actively tailoring your messaging to speak to those audiences, you're missing a major opportunity. This is a moment when franchising can truly thrive.
Wow. There you go. Well,
Oh,
you heard it here first. If you want to share what's going on in your world, then please do send an email to podcast@franchiseassembly.com. And we will do our best to share it right here live on the podcast. All right. So, up next is the Franchise Royals segment where we highlight someone that did something commendable or somebody that we like or just one of our favorites because we can do anything we want as our podcast. All right. But before we get to our franchise role, this segment is sponsored by Franchise Marketing and Tech Assembly. It is happening, folks, November 2nd and 3rd in Tampa. If you're in franchising, in franchise marketing, then you should absolutely be at this assembly. Reach out to us and we'll tell you what it's all about. But Leanne, take it away. Who's your Royal this week?
just a reminder, we're changing the name to Franchise Marketing Live. Dun dun.
Dun, 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 dun.
Uh, my royal is someone that I've known for a very, very, very long time. It's our good friend. Everybody knows his first name. Nobody knows how to pronounce his last name. Dean Hatzatheodosiou. And he's just announced that he has a new job with, I forgot the name of it. Dun, dun, dun.
Franchise Royal, and you
Way
don't
to,
even know where his
way to
job
go,
is.
Leanne. Way to go.
But you seem to be
I,
able to pronounce the last name
I
just
should have had
fine.
you go first. Solink. Solink. Oh my gosh, we love you, Dean. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Dean. That is great. And my royal this week, Leanne, thank you for asking, is Riley Wingard. Riley, congrats, my friend. Saw on LinkedIn and congratulated you that you started with Francie. And as a matter of fact, you already reached out this week too, just to see what's going on with things. And you're always on the ball. That's fantastic. Congrats again, Riley. We absolutely love you here at Franchise Assembly. Before we head out to the show and tell segment, folks, please take a moment to learn about our podcast sponsor, Subtle Strauss.
Franchisors love Subtle Strauss because we protect their brand standard across all marketing channels. Z's love our marketing platform because they can customize, print, download, and mail brand right collateral for their local market in minutes. Want to see how it works? Connect with me, Karen Wenning, on LinkedIn.
And we are back here with our favorite segment, show and tell. Of course, for those of you that are new to us, the show and tell segment is where we have industry leaders, experts share thought leadership insights in their various fields. And boy, oh boy, do we have a thought leader. We've got Josh Allen, the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills. Oh, wait a minute. Not that
Sorry,
Josh Allen. We've got
sorry to
the
disappoint.
famous one. Josh Allen, VP of Marketing and Sales at Location3. Josh, take it away. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Michael. Unfortunately, for those watching or listening, sorry to disappoint and not be that Josh Allen. I often say, or have to say at least, I'm the other Josh Allen these days. But I've been at Location3 for almost 15 years. Location3 has been in business for 2.5 decades, serving the franchising community, both from a strategic expertise standpoint, but an ad technology and local marketing platform standpoint with our platform, Local Act. So I always like to say we're the bridge between franchisor and franchisee when it comes to digital marketing strategy, performance marketing, franchise owner, local marketing, and ultimately driving more customers and hopefully more revenue for each and every franchisee while driving that brand lift for the franchisor as well. So I don't think there's a category in franchising we haven't been engaged with, and it continues to evolve. So great to be here with the two of you today and looking forward to the conversation.
Yes. Well, thank you, other Josh Allen. Personally,
I'll
you're
change my name on the screen too.
Okay. Personally, you're my favorite Josh Allen.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do appreciate that.
Okay, so as we, we're kind of sitting in mid-year of 2025 and kind of as we're looking towards 2026, what key digital marketing or consumer behavior shifts are you guys seeing that franchisors really can't afford to ignore?
A few things actually. I think, I'm sure we'll talk about AI. AI is top of mind no matter what. I think the evolution of AI when we start to talk about practical application, I think about search in particular. Search is still a significant driver of customer interaction, customer engagement, and ultimately customer conversion. And so I think how Google is evolving in particular, because they have the lion's share of the market currently, right? We know OpenAI has kind of indicated that there may be a monetized component of search or kind of trying to ultimately come into taking some of Google's market share, among others. We'll see what that looks like. Outside of AI, I think the two biggest things that we've talked a lot about, particularly over the last 12 months, is that I don't know that it's earth shattering, but we're all consumers, and consumers increasingly want two things. They want personalization when it comes to marketing and advertising, but they want and increasingly expect privacy. And that is understandable. That is a challenging environment for any marketer to navigate when you think about, broader things like GDPR and being PII compliant, but just reaching and engaging consumers in a meaningful way to deliver your value prop as a franchisor and ultimately convert that customer in a local market. How do you navigate continuing restrictions on data as it relates to protecting consumer privacy while delivering that personal experience so that a consumer isn't turned off by marketing, advertising, content that is, in their mind, not relevant to them or their customer journey, or even the search they enter in a search engine or a large language model tool. So that, I think, is the sweet science of marketing. It's not earth shattering or brand new, but the brands that are really kind of finding a way to navigate that environment are the ones that are succeeding at the end of the day, and staying ahead of the competition.
That's so funny because just earlier when we were recording the news part of this episode, the part that everybody skips through, um, it was all about franchise marketing getting a digital boost. So AI enhanced personalization, voice search optimization, privacy first data tactics using zero party data,
Yay!
yay, augmented reality experiences, and hyper targeted media buying. So we didn't even coordinate that whole message, but great job.
Right down to the balloons. That was excellent.
For those of you that are listening to us on Spotify right now, Leanne signaled the birthday balloons. I don't know if it's because it was her birthday last week or 2 weeks ago.
Balloons just fly.
Happy belated.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
There you go. But yes, so of course we're talking about marketing here. As it relates to economic uncertainty, it's still a factor, of course, in many sectors for I guess a plethora of reasons. How is that influencing the way franchise systems are allocating budgets across national and local marketing?
I think in a couple of ways. It's no surprise in many instances, regardless of what business you're in, that when The P&L gets tight and expenses have to be a little bit more, closely defined and monitored. Marketing is one of the first things to get cut. It's unfortunate. Should it be the case? I don't necessarily think so, but to your point of economic uncertainty, whether you're talking supply chain, increased costs by some things that are happening at the federal level, or on the local level, increased competition, the desire, as I mentioned previously, of consumers wanting that personal experience and having an expectation of a brand and business to deliver that in order to get a share of their wallet. I think all of these things are kind of converging. And so it's easy to say, well, we need to pull back on marketing and figure out, what works and what doesn't, and put more dollars into what is working in the most basic sense. So that performance-driven mindset is there, especially at the local level. I think franchisees, that are feeling the squeeze, how can they get more return out of that local investment? And we obviously have a very specific perspective on how to go about that strategically and tactically. But at a broad level, I think on a national standpoint, it's really how can we create more demand generation? How do we fill that upper funnel in an efficient way? And there's specific ways to do that. We have a belief that audience first, audience focused marketing and digital media buying is table stakes at this point. So leveraging your CRM data to kind of reach those consumers that are more likely to be would-be customers is one advancement. I think there's testing tools in Google like Performance Max. That was first released. Everybody turned on Performance Max, thought it was going to bring 10x in leads, and are finding out that that's not the case in a vacuum. So I think there's a number of different things, but I would say simply put, one, always be marketing. It should never get turned off. Having that performance-driven mindset and understanding what channels are delivering the best return, and not from a media metric standpoint, but from an actual conversion quality lead standpoint. That is where I think brands right now that are investing in marketing are focused. The other piece I would say is it's still an okay time to test. So even if you've done very little connected TV or OTT to create that demand generation, there's more efficient ways to do that. I think YouTube may be an example that don't require a significant ad spend budget, but can give you really actionable data, not just about your brand, but on a market by market basis. So the uncertainty persists, but consumers are still out there spending dollars, indexing in certain categories more than others for sure. But it all comes back to that data and that kind of testing mindset with the overall approach that turning marketing off is going to make it exponentially harder to get back into the marketplace as a brand and as a business when, the economic factors stabilize a little bit.
Yeah, I think that happened over COVID. So many people turned off their marketing budgets, and then the people who had kept them on were the ones who were coming out on the other side a little bit better.
Totally.
What is your thought on PMAX these days? So I know it's kind of been all over the place, and even I had the pleasure to go to the Google Partner Summit last year, and Google themselves were saying, if you tried it and it didn't work, try it again. Like try it again now. So
Right.
that's been almost a year. So what are your thoughts on PMAX now?
Great point. I think with any new product, Google or otherwise, it's not perfect when it launches, right? And that, to Google's credit, advancing, iterating, continuing to improve, listening to customers has been something that we've seen firsthand. As it relates to PMAX, PMAX in a silo, as I alluded to, is not going to create success. And I would suspect any marketer listening to this today has probably experienced that and knows that to this point. I would say from certain categories, we've seen it perform really, really well, not in a standalone. Our general recommendation is at a minimum that baseline paid search campaign that has a quality mix of brand and non-branded keywords and campaigns, while integrating PMAX alongside that to tap into visual creative, maybe going a little bit further upper funnel than traditional search might be, is the recipe for success. That will vary by category, that will vary by brand, and what maybe that cost per acquisition goal looks like. But PMAX is powerful. It can continue to deliver those results, but as a standalone, it misses the mark. You will drive significant conversions using those Google AI tools, but we all know not every conversion is a qualified lead, and not every lead turns into a customer. So That's where using technology, but also having really smart people comes in handy. And that's where we found success.
Good. And then how are you advising your clients on the SEO changes? I know you mentioned briefly at the first part, but how are you advising your clients right now? I know it's kind of the wild, wild west, but
Certainly. I think there's a lot of commentary that seems to be redundant almost every year that SEO is dead or SEO is dying or SEO is never going to be like it was before. And I find that commentary interesting as it relates to things like AI overviews, and the continued adoption of large language models and displaying those results is shifting what traditional SEO will look like and how it will continue to evolve. We actually published a white paper recently on this. I think from a content perspective, as it relates to franchising, the data continues to show that a lot of organic search activity, particularly for businesses, is very localized. That is not new, with the advent of things like AI overviews. And I think there's been a quick rush to how can my business appear in an AI overview because it's in effectively position one, right at the top of Google. I don't know that that is the best strategy. I think staying tried and true to what your business is, developing content around that answers key questions, whether they're search based or LLM prompt based, is where you're going to continue to see the benefit. And then what happens afterward? How, if someone is finding your business, be it in an AI overview, or if they're using the AI overview as a simple kind of validation point in their research phase, and then scrolling on Google to actual link-based content, are you visible? And are you visible not just from a brand perspective, but from an individual franchise, local market perspective? That's very Google specific. And again, we cover this quite in depth on the white paper. In summary, it's localized content and meaningful content, which gets back to the first point I shared earlier of customers expecting personalization in the way of answering the question that I have when I'm looking for something very specific that is very local in my marketplace. So this will continue to evolve. I think trying to just figure out how to end up in that prompt response is probably a little bit misguided. I would say the other thing, from a Google perspective, Google's made no secret about and hinted to a degree that ultimately we're going to start to see link-based content in AI overviews, whether that's organic, whether those are paid ads. I don't think it's a shock to anyone that is probably coming. We actually think for local businesses and franchises, map listings and business listing content is going to start to appear at some point, or at least be tested to see how users interact and click outside of that AI overview. So it's still very new. It's advancing rapidly. And then separately from a chat GPT or some of those LLMs, how are they starting to display content that is tied to businesses in a way that Google maybe traditionally has from a search engine? Do they step into that arena a little bit more? I think will remain to be seen, but something worth monitoring and adapting to probably over the next 6 to 12 months at a minimum.
thank you. Okay, so as with all of this evolution of technology and everything, so we're looking at tech stacks, and I think franchisors are like constantly reevaluating or piling things on top of other things. So what's kind of driving those decisions right now? Is it data, automation, AI?
I think a number of different things. I think it's easy there's a tool for everything. There's a platform that does this. There's a tool that does that. I think in franchising, my experience is that if you went back 4 or 5 years ago, there was a lot of isolation, tools and silos. I need this to solve this particular need. I need this to solve this particular need. I think what AI has probably given rise to is the ability to more practically integrate tools and systems, or at least outputs, be it data, information, whatever it may be, to kind of create a more, I don't know, holistic tech stack, if you will, than just isolated tools that ultimately, when you're trying to understand what the full picture of performance looks like, it's a little bit more difficult to do. So things like agents and whatnot to try to integrate systems and technology and data is something that's going to continue to advance. But there's a lot of fundamentals I feel like that many franchisors and franchisees still miss. We were at the Franchise Customer Experience Conference a couple of months ago in Atlanta, and it's still astounding to me. I think the statistic, correct me if I'm wrong, was 48% of franchisors still use the honor system to measure whether franchisees are investing in local marketing,
Yes.
regardless of what it is, right? And so that always jumps out to me in that study that Franchise Update does every year. That's great. What it illustrates to me is that, as I said, the table stakes fundamental stuff is still being missed in many regards. And so while AI is very much part of the public consciousness and will continue to be, there's back to basics, fundamental. Are we using analytics in the most efficient way? Are we tracking those key conversions and getting beyond impressions, clicks? We're talking about conversion value and cost per acquisition, hopefully customer lifetime value for repeat customers. You can do that now. That has, that's existed for some time. And there's so many brands and businesses that miss that. And if you don't start there, I think it opens up the scenario. If you go more toward more tools, AI integration, brands will find themselves in the same spot they are today a couple of years from now, potentially saying, I don't know how to assess whether or not any of this is working together or producing the result that I'm trying to achieve, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. I gotta be honest here. I mean, I'm on the always been on the development side, and so listening to this marketing conversation is amazing. Like the advancements and the changing landscape, and it really makes me think. Like, and I'm gonna date myself back to when there was no internet. What did you guys talk about back then? Like,
We
was it
went
TV and
outside.
newspaper?
Yeah, we went outside, Michael. Like the kids say, we touched grass, right? That's been introduced to me recently. So it's things move quickly. There's no doubt about it.
For real. Oh my gosh. Well, when talking about building a marketing plan, we're talking about advancement 25, 26. What are the non-negotiables for franchise brands that you see?
I would say first and foremost, clear alignment and integration of what you are doing at the brand level and how that impacts the local level from a strategy and execution standpoint. The two need to work hand in hand. Now, if you're an emerging brand, for example, you may not have a brand fund or an ad fund to kind of tap into and drive that kind of national brand presence. That's something fundamentally as an organization. If you're not doing as an emerging brand, you need to consider as table stakes. And I think anyone in franchising would tell you that. But if you are an established brand, how, nationally have traditionally been focused on just brand visibility, brand awareness, upper funnel, from a data perspective and a customer journey and attribution perspective, to the point of, again, personalization on the customer front, particularly if you're a brand that's non-transactional, you're not buying a cup of coffee as a customer, you are thinking about where to board your dog for the week, or you need a place for a family member that has, whether it's senior living or in-home care, a place for your one of your children, from an education standpoint to go, that's a franchise. Those are big decisions. It's a long journey, and it may start at the brand and the national level, but ultimately ends up at that kind of local franchise business. What does that journey look like? And not only do you have integration in terms of how national and local marketing is executed, but I think what a lot of folks critically miss is the measurement along the way. Attribution is not easy. Understanding kind of how consumers move throughout that journey is not easy. I think it's only going to become more complex because, as you hear continued talk of, more Gen Z millennial dollars and spending power over time growing in the marketplace. These are generations that typically they have less brand affinity. And so reaching and engaging them from brand visibility all the way to customer conversion, as a franchise, having that national and local integration cohesively versus, as the franchisor, we're going to do it all, or we're going to make the franchisees responsible for it all. That is table stakes to me. We talked about AI. I think AI readiness more from a testing mindset, and how can you use it in a practical sense for your brand, probably before the application comes at the local level. And I think just generally speaking, assessment of the existing data that you have as a brand and a business, there's still a lot of gaps that we see when we work with franchisors that just have tremendous amounts of information and data, but either a lack of understanding on how to turn that into actionable business decisions, or even ahead of that, a tech stack that doesn't allow for those actionable business decisions. So I know that sounds probably even 2021, 2022, but it's still a big gap in a lot of ways.
I still feel like franchising gets really far behind. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's likely because we're so big, and
Yep.
how do you be scalable from a
Yep.
local to national? But yeah.
I agree.
Hold on. So I
It's
have
not
a
an easy
question.
challenge. Go ahead.
Go. I was going to say for Leanne, just about what Josh was saying here on brand loyalty as a boomer. Is that true? I kid. I
Look at the
kid.
time. I gotta go.
Oh my. And he's pretending like he wasn't around when the internet wasn't here.
I know, right? I know. You make a good point though. I do think, for better or worse, franchising, maybe, we talk about AI and franchising, and we go to these conferences and you hear it at front and center, but adoption and practical application, franchising, it takes a little bit longer because of the nature of the model, and the need for as much franchise owner input as you have franchisor input, for a whole host of reasons that we could probably spend multiple podcasts on. But I think at least testing and giving franchisees, if you're sitting in that kind of brand marketer seat, playbook material that gives them some guideposts or guardrails, depending on how you view it, to test, learn, and then continue to iterate. I think that's just a good mindset to have, knowing that maybe, franchising as a whole, from a true adoption standpoint, it just takes a little longer by nature of the model and the system.
Yeah, totally agree. Apparently, Michael's gonna take a call. Uh,
It must be
Anyways,
Zuckerberg. Does he have a take on that?
it's-
No. No. Mark on line one. I love it.
I could have let that slide, but I wasn't going. That's a first, by the way. It must have been important.
Here we go. You remember right before we started where she's like, "Oh, only the person that's speaking is talking. You can do whatever you want. We're not going to call you out." Well, there you go.
I love it. I love it.
Anyway, so switching gears just a little bit, but you guys host an annual Google Partner Summit, which I had the pleasure of going to last year for the first time, which was really, really great. Share with us, and I know that by the time this really gets released, you won't have gone yet, but you're about to go in just about a month. So what are your clients learning at those things, and what, is there anything that Google might surprise us, or I guess
There's
tell
always
us.
surprises.
Yes.
There's no question about it. As you said, I know you got to experience it. It really is a fantastic event. We're privileged to be able to do this with Google, as being a Google Premier partner, and just our long-standing relationship. It's one of my favorite events and just periods on the calendar each year, because of when it falls, and as we start to think about, we know folks are thinking about 2026 already from a marketing perspective. And so what we typically find is it's an opportunity for Google to really showcase what is coming next in terms of very product specific things, product evolution. You mentioned PMAX, right? All of the things that have changed there. Google local service ads, the evolution of that, but also just broad view on the things we're seeing as everyday consumers, right? Search Max, I think, is going to be a big product topic, but AI overviews and kind of what is Google's perspective on the evolution and arc of AI overviews, as it comes to just creating better experiences for their user base and ultimately customers. So measurement is a big thing that we often talk about. To the point I made before is, are we measuring the right things? There's a lot of tools that we can use at our disposal, certainly within the Google ecosystem, about what it means to quantify success, to quantify ROI. So that is always one of kind of the themes and topics that I kind of nerd out on, because as marketers, at the end of the day, we did this thing. What did it produce? And so it's always fun to hear about how they look at data, as much as it is fun to hear about the advancements of things like AI overviews. So And it's just a fun event for our partners to kind of learn what's working in their world, right? Even if they're two completely different franchise categories, there's a lot of best practices that overlap that maybe one particular, brand or business hasn't necessarily adopted, and they learn about on site. So we're looking forward to it. As I said, it's one of my favorite events of the year, and I'm sure there'll be surprises even for us that come out of it from Google.
Yeah, I think I've told just about everybody that was my favorite event of the year last year. Like I think it was really good, and it's kind of the uh, vision behind the marketing and tech assembly slash franchise marketing live, kind of the structure
Absolutely.
of it and everything. So I,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a great event. I know it's a private event with Location 3 clients, but yeah, you guys do a great job with that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's as I said, it's a privilege. It's an honor to do it. It gets better every year, and this year should be no different. So we're excited.
Fantastic. And so, speaking about your relationship with Google, how has that influenced the way you support franchise brands navigating the platform?
Great question. I think the general perspective, and to Google's credit and the team that we work with and have for many years, when new products roll out, in a specific example, and this goes back even to Google Business Profiles and Google Maps when it first launched. One thing that we have found is, while the small business owner is very much in mind, whether it's Google Maps back in the day to traditional search to PMAX and LSAs, the franchising is unique. We all know this, and scaling, bringing these Google products to market at scale in a franchise system isn't as cut and dry or clear as it seems, in the way that it might be for a small business in particular that has a single location, can easily access GBP and Google ads and on down the line. To do that consistency where you have kind of what we call the brand control, right? The guardrails around the brand protection, but activating customers in a local market and empowering franchisees to market their businesses across the Google network. Um, that's where I think we've had the benefit, and to Google's credit, the ability to have a two-way dialogue with them that has resulted in product advancements and technology advancements. So I think that's a big part of it, is how we can maximize what Google is doing at the franchise level that is beneficial for both the brand and the franchisees. So that is, I think, been one of the things that has stood out for me over the many, many years in working with them and with their teams, and their receptiveness in doing so. And I suspect that will continue in this world of AI that we live in, and will continue to live in for the future.
Yeah, it's a good partnership for you guys to have, and I think that you use it wisely. But you guys have such a good relationship. I mean, you're on first name basis with your whole team, so your clients are very lucky in that aspect. So, we just talked about Franchise Marketing Live, formerly known as Marketing and Tech Assembly. But you guys jumped right in. You're going to be our title sponsor, and thank you so much. And we're working on securing big people like Google and so on. So, coming to Tampa, and so
Yeah.
what kind of excites you most about where the industry conversation is going, and and the reason you guys got involved?
Um, we're really excited. I think it's going to be a fantastic event. So in general, from a franchising perspective, to what I said before, even though it was very Google specific, it's kind of how marketing and technology are converging, and how do we help franchising maybe move a little bit faster, right? We talked about what feels like a slow rate of adoption sometimes to maybe other industries or verticals. That's what excites me. And I think the events that you create, the forums that you create to bring franchisors, marketing leaders, technology leaders together to facilitate those conversations, help the industry move forward at a better pace and at a more efficient pace, because we're all in this together. And I think that's critical. So that's why I'm excited. I think when I think about what I hope attendees take away is that, what I've heard from industry conferences over the past 18 months is everyone says AI. There's very little practical application. In many cases, people have talked about AI and then immediately go to Chat GPT, and we all know it's much more than that. but more importantly, the concept that, AI doesn't mean people and the human element and strategic thinking, critical thinking are being replaced by AI tools, platforms, machines, if you will. It's enabling to be more efficient, to drive more success, which inherently has always been fundamental to marketing as a whole. And so that is what I think we've advanced in franchising beyond the let's test AI to what I hope is a bit more of a forward step into practical application of some of these tools or tactics. And not just from a marketing perspective, but operationally, right? Improving efficiency in operation, quality assurance, customer success. That brings us all the way back to what we talked about at the top of that customer experience, right? Customers want personalization. They don't want bland marketing, and they respond when you meet them where they are. And so that requires a marketing and operational component. And I think tools and technology are just allowing us to be more efficient in meeting customers where they are. How we do that, I think, will be part of the conversation at the event. And that's what I'm excited for. And to hear different perspectives on what's worked, what hasn't, in the spirit of testing, learning, and growing. So that is what's got me excited, and we're looking forward to being a part of it.
Great. Well, thank you for being a part of it. Yeah, we're excited.
This has absolutely been one of the most informative sessions we've had so far. We're so lucky that we got this Josh Allen and not the other one.
I was going to say, I don't know if you have any questions about the prevent defense or blitz schemes. I don't have any notes, but maybe I can do that as a follow-up.
Thank you so much for coming on, Josh. If someone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach you? LinkedIn or
LinkedIn
website?
Is easy. You can find me at jallen@location3.com. Always love a conversation. Always love meeting new people in franchising. For those listening, please join us in Tampa if you're considering it as well. We'd love to meet you in person. And then, the franchising kind of conference tour, if you will. We're always at convention in February. If I haven't crossed paths with you at a franchise event, I probably will at some point in the next 6 months, but please reach out and consider joining us in Tampa.
Yeah. Thanks, Josh.
Awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate you both. Thanks for having me.
Yes.
Wow. Can I say wealth of information? That was phenomenal. Totally amazing. Josh, thank you so much for coming on. You were as good as we thought you would be. Moving on to our, yes, well, 100%. Moving on to our next segment, Franchise Mingle. Our Franchise Mingle is, of course, where we talk about all the upcoming events in franchising. And this segment is sponsored by the National Franchise Show, and it should be because we got a lot of franchise shows coming up this fall. We've got Denver and Detroit in September, Atlanta and Phoenix in October, and Tampa in November. And then, of course, our schedule for the spring is out. We have got literally, and I use the term spring lightly because it's lit from January to June. We've got 9 franchise shows. An amazing way for you to receive more franchisee leads by exhibiting at franchise shows. If you want to know more about it, feel free to reach out to me anytime and we'll send you the full schedule. In addition to all of that, we do have the Franchise Marketing Live conference happening back to back with the Tampa Franchise Show. That one happens November 2nd and 3rd. And I said it a bit earlier. If you are in franchise marketing, you cannot miss this conference. So many amazing things happening. Ask us for more and you shall find out. We also have our Hello Mastermind Fall Retreat, which is back to back with that from November 4th to 5th. So yes, we will tell you about, again, Tampa Franchise Show, November 1st and 2nd. Franchise Marketing Live, November 2nd and 3rd, and Hello Mastermind Fall Retreat, November 4th and 5th. Back to back. Then, of course, we've got the 2 Let's Grow Franchise Growth Conferences happening once in Toronto, December 3rd and 4th, and the Let's Grow Franchise Sales and Development Conference happening in Dallas, Fort Worth, January 27th through to the 29th, which is back to back with our Dallas franchise show. Wow, so many ways to kill 2 to 3 birds with one. I know that's your favorite term, Leanne.
Why do you hate birds so much?
Killing 2 birds with 1 arrow, whatever the saying is. Yes, that is great. So many events coming up. I absolutely love it. We also have the franchise business review, Leanne, Operation Summit. What's the dates on that?
Oh yeah, it's October.
Great. Good job, Leanne.
October 21st to the 23rd in Austin.
October 21st to the 23rd. If you are in operations, that is a conference that cannot be missed. The Franchise Business Review Op Summit. Okay, this episode is brought to you by Subtle Strauss, Franchise Marketing Live, Franchise Assembly, and the National Franchise Show. If you made it this far, folks, thank you so much. We'll catch you in a couple of weeks. Have a good night or a good morning.
Bye. Oh my God.
Maybe a good afternoon.